I'm here today in North Wales to see Europe's most northerly population of the Aesculapian snake. Now, these snakes did used to live in the UK hundreds of thousands of years ago, but they've been long extinct. But 50 years ago, a small population escaped from a zoo here in Colwyn Bay in Wales, and they've made a stable home for themselves in the undergrowth around the zoo grounds and in the wider countryside. We're here on the trail of the snake to find out what it means for the future of Britain's nature in a changing climate.
So my name's Tom Major and I'm a PhD student at Bangor University, and I study the Aesculapian snakes in Colwyn Bay in conjunction with the Welsh Mountain Zoo. So the project is essentially investigating a bunch of different things about this introduced species of snake in Colwyn Bay. One of the things we're interested in is doing some radiotelemetry. So we put transmitters inside the snakes and we track them multiple times a day to try and understand how they use habitat, where they go, how far they move, all these kinds of basic ecological questions about the snakes. I've always been interested in snakes. When I was a really little kid, I was about 5, I got taken to a garden centre by my grandparents and someone put a snake around my neck, and I was a little bit scared at first, but then once I saw how incredible this creature was, it was unlike nothing I'd ever seen. And ever since then I've been completely obsessed. If you tell someone that you're studying snakes, about half the people will react with excitement and the other half will react with fear and trepidation. So I think I've always liked an animal which is kind of a little bit maligned and just really misunderstood.
As we chatted to Tom, we had a cry of surprise and saw Rebecca, one of Tom's fellow researchers, waving a snake in the air. She'd found one.
Radio. Oh, you found one?
Yeah.
Oh, incredible.
There's a snake just crossing the path just over there.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah, he was literally just going up some steps, on the stone steps next to some flowers on either side.
We found a wild Aesculapian snake and it's in this bag, and we're just going to go take it to see if it's been tracked before by the research team.
The researchers are tagging all the snakes they find so they can better understand how many snakes there are and where they live. They check this snake for a chip but can't find one, so Tom whips out a syringe and squeezes a microchip into its scales. They need to keep tabs on the Aesculapians. Technically, they are a non-native species, and authorities are unsure whether they should be allowed to stay.
We've got the wild snake. The researchers have chipped it and measured it and processed it, and so now it's time for snake number 207 to go back into the wild.
Dr. Wolfgang Wurster is a globally renowned snake expert and oversees the project at Colwyn Bay.
Most of my research focuses on the biology of snakes, the evolution of venoms, that sort of thing. I think humans have a very bimodal response to snakes. People either love them or hate them. It's kind of like Marmite, you know, nobody is indifferent to snakes. Well, part of that is actually because there's some very good evidence now that humans and snakes share a very long history of not always very friendly interactions with each other, and we're kind of hardwired into reacting strongly to snakes, simply because in the past human populations lived in areas where there was a high risk of being bitten by venomous snakes.
While most of us will recoil from a snake in our path, Tom and the team spend their days getting as close as possible to the wild snakes. Aesculapian snakes favour forest clearings and hedgerows. Often, baby snakes can be found under mats of roofing felt, where it is warm and dry. Today is our lucky day. We find another juvenile nesting under one of the mats. But the future of these snakes in Wales is uncertain. As the climate warms, they might start to spread. Should the authorities eradicate them if that happens? It's an open question, says Wolfgang.
Well, we have this unique opportunity of studying a snake species that's not native to the UK, but that's successfully established itself here in the Colwyn Bay area, without, on the other hand, becoming a problematic invasive species. Very often you have an introduced species, they become invasive, they become problematic. Here we've had something that's lived here quietly for several decades. It's a great opportunity to understand how these species can start to colonize a new area even if they don't become invasive. And of course we do want to be clear also what the future might hold, whether these species might become more problematic in future, for instance under climate change scenarios. We're looking at a future scenario of significant climate change. We're going to lose some of our native species. Given that that's going to happen, there is an argument to be made that European species that have started to establish themselves here should be allowed to stay. We're going to lose diversity, and we're going to have a poorer fauna if we do nothing, if we say no to any European species that's established itself. So instead, if we keep them here, then we will have a diverse fauna into the future.